and welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Zarabi and you're watching the unveiling of the Silver Jubilee Edition of the Business Today-MDRA, India's Best Business Schools Survey. This is one of the most anticipated, most credible and widely known business school rankings. 25 years, and this 25th edition captures the far-reaching changes that are sweeping the corridors of India's topmost business schools, where both faculty and students are preparing themselves for a world that is increasingly being driven by artificial intelligence. And joining me to discuss and decode the rankings of the Business Today MDRA 25th Silver Jubilee Edition of the best business schools across India are a host of guests. My colleague Sourav Majumdar, the editor of Business Today, the managing editor of Business Today, Anand Adhikari. We are also joined by Abhishek Agrawal, the executive director of MDRA, the agency that's been with us for 12 years now, helping us put together this very definitive, very credible list of business school rankings. We also have Dr. Prabina Rajib, the director of EdTech, Rajneesh Singh, CEO of the Simpli Group and a veteran HR leader who's worked across a swath of industries, Srinath Sridharan, corporate advisor, and again who understands the business school corporate matrix very, very well. Welcome to the show, everyone. What I'm going to do is to first get Sourav to give us a brief overview of this 25th edition, not all the findings, because we are going to try and take them one by one. But Sourav, to you first, what is special about this 25th edition of the business school rankings?
Well, Siddharth, thank you for having me on the show. I think what is special about this year is it's the Silver Jubilee Edition, as you rightly said, of this very much awaited ranking which we put out every year. It's very significant because, and also I must say that we've been really happy to work with MDRA for 12 years in the row of those 25 years, and it's been a great partnership. But particular to this year is, you know, like you again said in your introduction, the sweeping changes which are actually we are witnessing across corporate India, and how that will affect business education. I think that is the context under which we are putting out this particular issue, and we've actually delved in quite a good detail in this issue about some of those aspects, including some very interesting columns which the deans and directors of some of the business schools have put out. And Anand, who has helmed this issue with with us, and he's also had a lot of discussions with various other people in the business school space who are very clear that this is a different day and age. What business education was 25 years ago when we started these rankings in 1998 and what it is in 2024 are very, very different, because today we have artificial intelligence that is one big disruptor, but equally there are various changes. Today it's a VUCA world. You cannot predict what will happen 5 years down the line. So strategy is only as good as maybe 1 or 2 years, and therefore how do management students, how do tomorrow's leaders position themselves in this very competitive and very uncertain world? These are the 5 or 6 things which we really want to deep dive into in this issue, and I think it's a very interesting set of stories and columns which we've put out, and it's very heartening to see that a lot of these business schools, I must tell you, Siddharth, are actually aware of these changes which are sweeping corporate India and indeed the world, and they are making preparations for that. But are they good enough? And what kind of preparations do they need? That's what we will have to see in the years going forward.
Absolutely. Sourav, explain this cover, because we started by saying the impact of AI. So is this a AI driven cover? Because normal covers would have had a different look and feel. So what's behind the design philosophy of this cover of the 25th special edition?
Well, the design philosophy, as Nilanjan Das, our group design editor, has looked at, is that it's a celebratory cover, right? And it's that it's the graduation hat in a very golden kind of a hue with a lot of celebration thrown in. It's basically to show the aspirational nature of the MBA degree, and that's what everybody aspires for. And as we have found out, and as even Abhishek writes in his column in this issue, is that MBAs are still very much in demand. There are challenges, of course, in terms of whether the salaries have gone down. Average salaries at the top end are down. I mean, have gone down. The return on investment is a challenge, but MBAs are still aspirational as a degree. MBAs are still in demand from corporate India. So I think that's what this cover tries to sort of embody.
Anand, since you've done a very extensive deep dive and your essay puts all of this in context, Anand, without discussing the rankings, I want you to pick up the point that Sourav made in your visits and your conversations. How was the mood in business schools this year, this placement season? Was it celebratory, or was the mood a bit dark? Because we've seen all the news and the headlines about tough placements, not just in fact in management institutions, but even in engineering institutions of a very high repute, Anand, this placement here.
So Siddharth, placement struggles, are in a way is a byproduct of, what is happening in the economy right now. And like Saurav talked about the, Gen AI part, everybody I spoke, talked about, integrating, Gen AI into their, curriculum. The second big, aspect which people touched upon is the leadership development in this VUCA world. There is a view that it's a process, it takes time, but leadership is, one aspect which, everybody spoke. Can we solve, real life, problem? And third, is the entire, this entrepreneurial startup culture. I mean, there's a third big point, that came, and in the last discussion we, we spoke about this, over 1 lakh, startup, over 100, startup turning, so these are two or three broad, things which came out. Integrating Gen AI, second is the entrepreneurial part, and third is the leadership development.
Absolutely. Abhishek, I want you to begin by telling our viewers about what goes into these rankings. We will come to the rankings briefly, but I first want you to set the context of how you go about doing this and what is the methodology that is really being utilized to come up with these rankings, which viewers will just unveil in just some minutes from now.
Thank you, Siddharth. I must congratulate entire Business Today team for completing Silver Jubilee year of the B School rankings. Why? Because if you see the some top-notch global rankings of B schools like the Economics, the Forbes, they could not survive for more than 12 years. The Economics shut down its annual which MBA in the year 2022. The same happened with Forbes. So if we are continuing in the 25th year, and with the bigger participation, the deeper in the sense, the more number of attributes and parameters, and by diving data, it tells a lot about our ranking. If I talk about our BT MDRA B school ranking, this is probably country's most scientific and methodical ranking of the best B schools. In fact, I would like to quote one of my columns in Business Today 5-6 years ago, wherein we compared with the global rankings. Most of the global rankings rank the B schools based on either the placement or a limited sets of data. But we are ranking based on 127 odd attributes. For example, this year to rank the 275 B schools, we had analyzed a humongous set of 35,000 data points. So this is based on most comprehensive, relevant, and recent set of data that makes us unique.
That's a very good point, Abhishek, and you also made this global comparison, and that's quite a point to take note of. I want you to explain to our viewers the different baskets of ranking that we have, and then I'll go to Sourav to take us through some of the key top rankings. But how many rankings do you do, and what is the rationale behind them? Abhishek, help demystify this for our viewers.
Sure, Siddharth. If you allow me to just, give a more, to elaborate a little more on the methodology, I would like to tell that out of these 127 odd indicators, we have framed 5 key parameters. First, we consider intake quality, the pedagogy, the infrastructure, living and learning experience of students, future orientation, as well as placements. And if you talk about intake quality, we have more than 14 indicators in this, having 15% weightage. The
Okay.
learning experience has as high as 55 indicators with 25% weights. If you talk about living experience, we have 22 indicators with 15% weightage. Future orientation is very unique to us, to this ranking, which has again 16 indicators with 20% weights. And placement performance, which is, I think, one of the key barometer basis which the students and parents take a decision which MBA to join, has about 20 indicators with 25% weightages. It's very
Okay.
important for the audience to know that there is no participation fee. All the around 3,200 odd B schools are that fulfill the eligibility criteria, which is very simple. They must have been in existence for last 5 years, and at least 3 MBA batches must have passed out. All these are eligible, all are welcome. We do not charge any fees for participation. Apart from that, the most unique part about our ranking is the data is validated and audited. In the last decade, we have visited physically audited about 700 colleges. In fact, I think one of our director here, I think she BIMTech. BIMTech, I think at the time of Dr. Harivansh Chaturvedi, we have visited 2-3 times.
Okay.
So I think all these efforts have helped in getting almost error-free and non-exaggerated data. If you talk about objective data, the most important demerit is that a lot of institutes submit exaggerated data, but during last 12 years, we have established a trend that nobody is submitting any kind of fake data.
Okay. Okay. So take us quickly through the different ranking baskets that you have before we go into the actual survey findings. Just tell us the top line of the number of baskets that we have for rankings.
Thank you. Thank you, Siddharth. I think that till 2022, we used to do the 2-year ranking. After that, we witnessed the evolving needs of the MBAs who wanted to do MBA or take management education while studying. So we had incorporated 1-year executive MBA ranking, which is a very rigorous and in-campus program. Apart from that, we had added executive programs ranking.
Okay.
We had also added ranking, which is basically EdTech rankings. So these are the 3 new additions which we did in year 2023.
Okay, 3 new additions apart from what this survey is best known for. Sourav, I'm coming to you and we'll take the first big reveal. The top 5 business schools, and I'll request my producer to hold on before he fires that graphic because I want Sourav to start with it. The top 5 business schools as per the Business Today MDRA Best Business Schools ranking, the top 5 schools. Sourav, which are those?
Well, Siddharth, it is my pleasure to announce the top 5, which is Indian Institute of Management Calcutta tops the ranking this year as well. They've made a bit of a habit of doing that. Indian Institute of Management Lucknow is at number 2. SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, SPJIMR, is at number 3. Indian Institute of Management Kozhikode is at number 4, and Indian Institute of Management Indore is at number 5. This is the overall rankings, the top 5. These are the rankings in that order, and as is evident, Siddharth, IIMs are dominating the top 5. The only exception here is SPJIMR.
Okay, the inclusion of SP Jain makes it 4 out of 5 for the IIMs. Sourav, did certain schools not participate in this survey? Before I go to my guests to decode the first overall set of rankings, can you throw some light on that?
Yes, I think we've had discussions with all of them actually, Siddharth, and they had, they've declined this year because of various reasons, and I would like actually Abhishek to go into that. IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, and I think IIM Mumbai, the new IIM, is of course a different case altogether, because they had requested that they want to wait a bit more before getting into this, because they've just turned from NITI to IIM Mumbai, and therefore I think they wanted a little bit of time. But other than that, I would like Abhishek to probably, and Anand maybe can come in. Maybe Anand can start and Abhishek can tell us what were the discussions like with these.
Siddharth, I just want to add some, the qualitative aspects. IIM, Calcutta. Now they have, in response to, the challenges which these schools are facing. Now IIM Calcutta has made changes to its curriculum. They have, introduced specific courses, on globalization, on geopolitics, diversity and all that. IIM Lucknow, they have set up a, center of excellence in the blockchain area. And in the next 2 to 3 years, they want to nurture some, 100, startups. And, IIM Indore, in a way like solving, real life world problem. They worked on this missing children issue in Madhya Pradesh, and came out with their finding, and I want people to read that IIM Indore story.
That's a beautiful
story. And SP Jain, I think they worked on or working with some 100 NGOs to nurture management in the development area. So there are a lot of qualitative aspects we have tried to capture. I mean, the rest of the work is done by Abhishek on the quantitative side.
Okay, Abhishek, very quick comment before I go to my guests. Why did some of these institutions not participate? If you could just quickly explain that.
Siddharth, here I can give you a very generic figure, generic statement that we have analyzed a lot of data, and we cannot comment on institute-wise why they have not participated. We have talked to them, but generally it looks like that placement is one of the key reasons because of which even the government ranking was delayed. They had also a lot of issues with data, because in between we had met the education minister. So prima facie, one reason is that. Other reasons we might not discuss here.
Okay, so viewers, there you have it, the top 5 business schools of India as per the BT-MDRA ranking. IIM Calcutta, followed by IIM Lucknow, followed by SP Jain Institute of Management, then IIM Kozhikode and IIM Indore. And I go across to my guests now, starting with you, Srinath. What does this list tell you about the state of business school education, and are you surprised by any of the top 5 in the list?
Not at all, Siddharth. I think as Anand rightly pointed out, these schools have brought in the outlier subjects, the contemporary subjects, not the conventional HR, ops, finance. They're important. But how do you contemporize your education to the modern society? I mean, some of these schools, I'm also aware, also teach public policy, how to deal with civil society. But our conventional thinking is, if you're an MBA, you're going to go into mainstream corporate world and not necessarily need to understand those. I think that is clear. 2 is, some of them also are outliers when it comes to using industry professionals, that is professor of practice, to bring them on board as teachers, not just the academic scholars or the academic teachers as professors, but also the industry professionals. And I think that is a lesson for others who are way down in the pecking order in the ranking, saying that how quickly can you get industry folks into the academic world. And yes, it's a tough challenge, because most of the industry folks who are ready to go are not necessarily of that standard. And teaching is not just everybody's cup of tea as well. And the third one, in all these rankings, if you look at least these five institutes, they have adapted digital very, very well, which means that it is also learn while you are actually on the go. So it's not conventional textbook kind of methodology. It's not only those case studies. I'm aware of some of them where I go and teach.
Yeah.
You will have to actually pick up lifelong examples and projects that you work parallelly while you're also in campus and you're working with projects, and multi-streaming and working with different kind of students as well, lateral education and experience.
Okay. Dr. Rajib, you've seen the rankings. I want you to comment about the larger issue of placements and whether that has been a very significant worry for management institutions across the country in this recent placement season.
First of all, congratulations to BT for completing 25 years. And yes, as an administrator, as a senior, person sitting at the helm of an organization or an institution, we are kind of very mindful that our students get good employment, because many of the students take large amount of education loan, and the student fee by and large in management education is larger or higher as compared to other streams of education. So placement remains, making good placement giving good placement opportunity for our students remains one of the key parameter for any B school. Of course, having said that, we are also, as an academician, we are also very mindful that placement is important, but placement is not everything.
Okay.
We have we have to make them employable. We have to give them a larger, make them more knowledgeable, and companies, for various reasons, they go through up cycle, down cycle. All of us, we saw in the 2009 when good companies who had even given offer at a good salary, they also withdrew the withdrew the job offer to the students. But the students eventually went and are doing exceedingly well. So placement is important, but as an academician, as a administrator, my objective, I'm sure similar other senior position holder in other B schools also are very mindful that we are going to be making those curriculum, we are going to give those curriculum inputs, make all those subject changes so that the students are going to be employable over a long period of time. And placement is important, but placement is not everything.
Placement is not everything. Rajneesh, do you agree with this? At a time when management education, including, for example, at the IIMs, has become more expensive, and since this is an India-specific ranking, we can't bring in how much you have to pay overseas for a managerial education. Do you agree with what Dr. Rajiv is saying?
Yeah, I think, again, first of all, many congratulations to the team. 25 years is a brilliant innings by the team. And also to the team which has put together the India's best B schools study. And it was so nice to hear from Abhishek about the entire parameters that they have studied. But yes, coming straight on to the point, Siddharth, it's definitely everything boils down to the placement. Any kid taking up a course in MBA, their parents also, the purpose is very clear that they got to land with a job. And I guess that is one of the primary reasons that we understood that because of which some of the institutes have shied away from participating in the study. This is not a good trend, and it might just about be a starting point of really things getting snowballed. Some of the comments that I was also reading while the earlier speaker was speaking was that have too many B schools mushroomed in the country? Is there an oversupply of talent? that is a big question because the offtake from the industry is getting limited. So when we heard that if the employability is becoming a bigger challenge, so that is something that needs to be addressed immediately by both the sides. I think industry has a huge role in it, as much as the academia has a role. We have been talking about this, the whole partnership between the two entities. These are the years where both the set of people need to really sit together and look at the curriculum, look at the quality of faculty. I have been of late talking a lot about the quality of faculty. Nothing against the academia world, but trust me, if the talent that is coming out and if they are not finding a job, somewhere somebody will go back and say, what is the quality of education that is being imparted? So that itself becomes a very tricky point to be really pondered over. Otherwise, I think it's a situation like we also again read on some of the points that, and it's so nice to see some of the new IIMs really shape up, be in the top 5. Kozhikode, Indore, that's a great sign that they are catching up, which is a very welcome sign. But then we also need to be mindful that at the very bottom of this list are some very, B schools that probably could be just throwing up students in the job market who are just not going to fetch a job at all. So, and that's why it becomes very important that are we creating entrepreneurs as well at the same time as much as job seekers? So that becomes very critical. So when you're hearing about incubation, when we heard about IIM Lucknow doing, having these cells around which we are kind of creating entrepreneurs for future, I think that is where part of the solution lies for India. We need more job creators rather than job seekers.
Absolutely, Rajneesh, and you touched upon a couple of points, viewers, because next we are coming up on the one-year courses. But before I do that, I just want to add some more context. IIM Calcutta, because this is the 2024 ranking, viewers. For 2023, IIM Calcutta was at number 1 slot. But IIM Lucknow last year in 2023 was number 4. That's moved up to number 2. SP Jain was at number 5, that's moved up to number 3. IIM Kozhikode, which did not participate in 2023, has come in at number 4, as you can see on the list. And IIM Indore has moved from 6 to 5. There are, of course, the remaining 5 for the top 10. I'll just quickly take their names. MDI Gurgaon is at number 6 on this year's ranking, moving up a notch. The IIFT, the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, has moved up from 9 to 7 in this year's list. The Mumbai-based SVKM's NMIMS Narsi Monji School of Business Management is now at number 8. It's moved up 2 notches. IIM Shillong is number 9, moving up from 12. And number 10 is IMI New Delhi. For the entire ranking, viewers, I'll have to stop here. I want you to go and pick up your copy of this ranking to get more. But next up, the top 5 business schools for one-year courses. And Sourav, again to you to take us through those 5 names.
Yeah, thank you, Siddharth. I think the top 5 B schools for one-year MBA are Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, ISB, at number 1. Followed by Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore at number 3, Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta at number 4, and Indian Institute of Management, Kozhikode, number 5. Now again, 4 out of 5 are IIMs, but this time in the one-year MBA space, ISB comes out top, Siddharth.
Okay, so I wonder, Anand, how should we categorize ISB? Is it like a cutting edge institution that's bought the best of industry practices and merged it with some amount of traditional Indian schooling? What's distinct about ISB, and why, according to you, has it moved up in the ranking so much this year?
I think even last year ISB was at number 1, and Siddharth, just to make a point on the IIM Calcutta part which you said, IIM Calcutta has been a winner for 4th year in a row, And the ranking of some of the other things have changed because 2 or 3 institutes have not participated. So all others have gained maybe 2 places, but
Right.
IIM Calcutta has been a winner for the last 4 years in a row. For the rest of the part, Siddharth, we don't profile these institutes. It's just a listing, for 1-year program, for the EdTech, where we have UpGrad, Coursera and Nulearn, Great Learning and all. Even these executive programs is just a listing. We don't profile these winners in our study.
Okay, I want to come to Srinath once again. Srinath, and the question here is the value differential, if one exists, between the 1-year and the 2-year course, because I know a lot of people who prefer the 1-year course. Even people from the media, from our line of business, have in the recent past moved out of the media and gotten into the ISB, a pretty decent shot clearly. But what's the value differential between the 1-year and the 2-year according to you, Srinath?
See, I think the fee or the salary expected differential that we see between a 12-month program or a 24-month program is very simple. I think it is more psychological. I probably will be a little more scathing to say that I would be delighted if the next year's BT survey shows ROME, return on management education. I mean, if you don't go by the average placements numbers, because the top number could skew the entire average, but why don't you look at the median placement salaries and actually figure out how many years, what's the payback time for the fees and the living expense, be it 12 months, be it 18 months or 24 months program that the student pays for. What is the actual payback time? And if you look at probably, forget your top 25 list, if you go down the path of greater than 25 number ranking, some of these colleges have payback as high as 7.5 years, which because the entry-level job salaries for an MBA in India with 0 experience is almost anywhere as low as 3.5 to 4 lakh rupees per year. So how long are you going to take? And to me, that is a better measure rather than saying that would you go to a 12-month program or a 24-month program. It also should depend on the vintage of work experience that you have. Are you going to go laterally after a few years of work ex? And is it going to give you incremental higher positioning in the corporate hierarchy when you move back, assuming that you're going to come back to corporate sector and not turn an entrepreneur or go to civil society? I think that's the challenge that we have. And there are no clarity in terms of, there are no thumb rules that we see emerging. Whereas if you look at the Western world, let's say UK offers most of the programs you can do, master's programs in 12 months or 15 months in a lot of universities. That seems to be a better cycle simply because you're able to catch the job cycle. It's more cycle dependent on the job market than anything else. But in India, you have a fixed routine. If you do a 1-year MBA, most of the top corporates do not necessarily see it as a great one unless, let's say, it's a program from ISB and others.
Okay. I want to get a perspective on this from a recruiter, someone who is recruited. Rajneesh, before I go to Dr. Rajib, for a more academic point of view on this, would you prefer a 1-year or a 2-year? What have you done in the past, and in the current world, would you at all treat them differently?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Siddharth. And I guess industry is also kind of toying with both the kind of duration of course that people are coming in. I'm quite closely associated with a Gurgaon-based B school, which is called School of Inspired Leadership, SOIL. SOIL has been one of the pioneers which started with a 1-year course in business management and HR. And then, of course, recently they have opened up a 2-year course as well. My take is that both of them have their own flavor. I would rather, the way things are going, if you really honestly ask me, as having been in the corporate and now been an entrepreneur for some time, that whole duration itself needs a relook. And if there is a mid path, I don't know whether it is 1 year or whether it is 18 months, but this is something the academia and the industry should sit down and really kind of again thrash out, which is what I was mentioning earlier also. What we are witnessing between the 1 year and 2 year is also the more time being spent by the students in the corporate. So if you really go back to our time when we were in B schools, we would just about get 8 weeks of internship. That literally has expanded to almost 6 months, and which is doing a hell lot of difference for both the students and the corporates. I think if that's the way to move forward, and if I'm really one of those guys really putting in front of the panel a very kind of a disruptive thing, and I was thinking when I was hearing others that can we have a 6-3-6-3 kind of a format where you do 6 months academic, 3 months industry, 6 months academic, again back to 3 months, and then into a job. Is a format from an 18-month standpoint is what I was looking at from a middle path. But honestly, it boils down to the employer. I have, in my own experience so far, it again, whether it is 2 years, 1 year, it again, like we were discussing about the employability factor, there are kids who really pick up things over 12 months, fairly sharp, and they will take off very soon. And at the same time, there are students who have undergone 2 years course and yet struggle when they land in a corporate. So it's a mixed bag, honestly, if you really ask me, whether it's a 1 year, 2 year, what other people are preferring. I think industry is they are going to the 1 year courses also, they are also going to the 2 year courses. So I think they're picking up from both the sides. And right now, I think it's a wait and watch thing.
Okay, let me get Dr. Rajiv to comment on this. Add your academic experience and point of view on this particular question. What provides more value for an employer and the student? Is it 1 year or 2 years, Dr. Rajiv?
My previous speaker also very nicely elaborated that there is no one size fit all. And please note that 1 year, by and large, 1 year MBA program or PGDM program, we tend to take people who have about 5 to 7 years of work experience. They have seen the world, they have worked in a corporate organization, they know how organizations work, what is the balance sheet, what is the P&L, what is the profit, loss, and all that. So, a lot of things can be concised to them, and they are also in a hurry. They may be in a mid-career executives, they have a family, staying in most of the management educations are residential programs, so staying apart from the family, staying apart from the job, it's not feasible. And I think 1 year is good enough for them. And I also feel that currently when we are taking youngsters, 1.5 year, 2 year of work experience, who have just done a very, very thin part of some job sitting in one cubicle in an organization, their understanding of the company, their understanding of the business or the economy as a whole is very limited.
Okay.
So giving them time to understand, read. In fact, I would say that a student should last term of the time should lay 10 leadership books, do a consultancy program, go handhold a small MSME, and do lot of things which makes him or her or start a entrepreneur, participate in B plan competition, think about bigger issues to solve. So those are far more long term value proposition which business school can bring to a younger student who has just graduated from a undergraduate program, just sat in a small corner of an office and done a very, very small scope job. So to summarize, that one size doesn't fit all. Youngsters, if a B school is targeting to take 2 to 1.5 year of work experience students into MBA program, it requires some kind of a gestation period. Even a baby remains in mother's womb for 9 months. So you cannot expect the mother to deliver before 9 months. So obviously,
that's a very, very important point to explain this. Sourav, did you want to come in before I move on to the other set of rankings? Did you have a comment on this?
Yes, I think Absolutely, Siddharth. I think there are some very interesting, important points made by the speakers. A couple of things I wanted to sort of put before everyone. I think I completely agree with the fact that this whole placement fixation need not be the guiding principle. Instead, we should also have as we have discussed at various forums, that we need to prepare today's management students for leadership. And leadership does not mean only going as a job seeker and then trying to move up the corporate ladder. Leadership has many facets, right? So you should also be a job creator. So I think this whole issue of entrepreneurship, like India being the third largest startup ecosystem, like Anand mentioned earlier, India is the third largest ecosystem of startups with 117,000 plus registered DPIIT startups. I think that's a very, very good base to begin, sort of to build on. And so therefore, I think the management schools, the B schools, need to really push beyond just placements and create entrepreneurs as leaders of tomorrow.
Okay. Viewers, there's a lot in this special edition, the Silver Jubilee edition, but I will now take, in the interest of time and to keep this discussion, because my producers want me to really move on quickly on some of the other findings and rankings, 3 separate rankings that we'll try and pick up, and then we'll go around our entire panel on their views. The first one, executive programs, and let's bring that up on the screen first. There you have it, the top 5 business schools for executive programs. IIM Ahmedabad is number 1, IIM Bangalore number 2, it's still called Bangalore, by the way, that's the name of the institution. ISB at number 3, and IIM Calcutta at number 4, and of course IIM Lucknow at number 5. This is executive programs. Let's now bring up EdTech. Why I'm doing this is to try and give you snapshots of the other 2-3 heads of the rankings, and then I'll go across to our panel on their views. EdTech rankings from the BT Best B School Survey. Top 5 edtechs offering management courses on the screen right up there. UpGrad at number 1, followed by Coursera, and many people would know these names. Nulearn at number 3, Great Learning at number 4, and the 5th on the list that we have is Emeritus. So this is the edtechs offering management courses, and the 5th category that we are going to now play out is the private institutions of the Best B School Survey, the top 5 private business schools, and it won't be a surprise, SP Jain right up there, number 1, SP Jain at Mumbai, followed by MDI Gurugram, Narsimhanji Institute of Management School of Business Management at Mumbai, IMI, that is the International Management Institute at New Delhi, and the Institute of Management Technology at Ghaziabad. Abhishek, since you are with us, there was this point that Srinath had raised about the in some ways on the return on investment point. He called it Rome, of course, and we also have that detail, by the way, which we want to come. But before we do that, a quick comment from you, Abhishek, on these results that we are currently displaying up on the screen, including executive programs, EdTech, and the private institutions.
Siddharth, I think that the entire MBA and the management education has become very dynamic. If I track over even last 4-5 years, many of the programs which had started even by the top colleges have some of them have been discontinued, and every year some new experimentation is happening. In fact, if you see this year in the month of February, IIM Ahmedabad came up with the online MBA. So I think as Saurav has said about VUCA world, so even the management programs are highly volatile now. Even today morning, I was just going through the Economic Times, and there was an ad by IIFM, Indian Institute of Forest Management. I was surprised to know that despite having two regular MBAs, they came up with another MBA this year on sustainability. So, every year we see a lot of new things. In fact, I think something good is happening. I will pick from what Rajneesh said about MBA. I think we started this ranking some 25 years ago. At that point of time, there were around 700 B schools. If you come across 2011-12, at that point of time, it had gone up by 7.5 times, close to 3,750 B schools. But 2012-13 onwards, there is a decline in number of B schools every year except 2021. So now there are close to 3,200 B schools every year. Some B schools are shutting down. So people will say it's a bad news, but for students it's a good news because the base schools which were not quality oriented, did not have infrastructure and capability to give leadership skills, stress management, they are shutting down. In fact, if you see the first generation of IIM, second generation of IIMs, now there are 21 IIMs. The total number of seats offered by IIMs has increased multiple times. Now it is more than 5,500. Now I will pick up from what Rajneesh said about the a number of the supply of students.
Yes.
If you see last year, 3,30,000 students applied for CAT.
Yeah.
But the surprise to know that there are more than 4,20,000 seats. So what are these people doing there?
Okay.
Even if you see the percentage of students who get an offer from IIMs is as low as 1.7%. So yes, there is enormous number of
In fact, let's bring up that graphic that we have on the point that you have raised, Abhishek. More people aspiring for MBAs in India. You spoke about the 2023 registrations for the CAT test, which are up 30% year on year at 3,30,000 registrations. And we also viewers details in this edition which say that business school applications have declined globally. However, there is increased confidence in MBAs from India's top business schools. Higher admissions are happening in our top MBA colleges. The top Indian 100 business schools have increased their intake up by 15% in over 2023-24, and like Abhishek pointed out, IIM intake has also increasing. So the big question as I wind down this conversation is there increased optimism around the Indian MBA? And I come to you, Srinath, with that question.
Yeah, I think is there optimism? Yes, but I have a slightly contrarian view. If you say that the industry we are in free markets regime, then the placement salary is an indicator of what market is ready to price or pay us. So whether we like it or not, that's an indicator that we'll have to live with. And education is the only industry, if you look globally, is the only industry where the output is also the consumer. So the students are the output, but they're also the consumer of the service. So it's a kind of a cyclical industry where they are going to, what they say is going to be gospel truth. So I wouldn't be surprised in social media, you have more newer evolutions of Glassdoors. Glassdoor today rates corporates, but we might soon have a different kind of a social media which will start rating students, rating their experience in B schools. And I'm not a cynic here when I say this. I think the challenge is a lot of academicians actually deserve the criticism that they get from the students. I think they're force-fitted academicians with no sense of reality of what the industry is. And Rajneesh kind of was very diplomatic about it, and I'm breaking that. And I think that is what is going to make...
No, Srinath, since you are trying to set the cat among the pigeons, Dr. Prabina Rajib, do you want to respond to this, that academicians perhaps don't have enough idea of what is really happening on the ground and in industry? And Srinath earlier during the show had given us this suggestion of frequently entering the private sector through internships and coming back. Please comment on both those points.
Obviously, I'll answer the second question first. Any real life experience adds a lot to a student's journey. And so, if we can evolve a structure where students can go for a little longer period of time for the internship, that's absolutely well. But in today's days, I would like to share something, another very innovative thing which is happening. Probably many of you may not be very exactly aware of. Lot of students do live projects. In the sense, we are encouraging, most of us are encouraging students, get in touch with LinkedIn, get in touch with the company, do a pro bono work. You don't need to visit a company. Even my institute, we are keeping one day off if student wants to go and sit with a kirana store and work as a consultant. In fact, we are factoring into as a curriculum. It's a course of independent study. There is no classes, nothing, but you have to be working as a consultant to a MSME, Kirana store, and understand the process and submit a proposal, and we are going to invite those people to value whatever contribution you are doing.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we are saying is absolutely right, but I should not be blaming only the academics. It is the bigger role of an administrator. When we are designing the curriculum, there is a lot of freedom given to us as an academician, as an administrator. So how do we bring those changes? For example, at BIMTech, we have made it mandatory that 20% of the classes has to be taken by industry.
Okay.
So
All right.
if I if
Well,
I am teaching
that's a very important point. Anand, I saw you wanted to come in on that point. Anand?
Siddharth, just point on the intake part. The biggest issue which the management institutes are facing is the funding part. So, like we talked about our edtech winners. Now, most of these are marketing tie-ups. All these edtechs are marketing tie-ups. And second, most of these institutes are pushing certificate program. 6 month, 8 month, digital marketing and other thing. They can't increase the fees because there is a limitation, to increase the fees. So that intake part, the intake is in a way, gradually growing.
Okay.
Siddharth, if I may also come in. I wanted to ask the panel one question which has been sort of on top of my mind. Why is there a preponderance even today, after so many years of B schools, private B schools coming into the picture, that even now there is a complete dominance of the IIMs and the government B schools? When will private management schools come up to that level that we will really see a number of them at the top end?
So, shall I take a shot at this?
Yeah, Srinath, go ahead.
I think very simple.
Yes, please.
Very simple. I think for a change, instead of the students or the parents looking at ROI, the promoters of those institutes looked at ROI, which meant that until a certain point, the regulatory capacity of, let's say, if you did an MBA program, you are only allowed under a certain university, and you are allowed only 120 seats per batch and so on and so forth. There was a capacity constraint, and even the fees were capped by the regulations. The moment you went private, all they had to do was probably build a small auditorium. Libraries don't count anymore, I think. You build an auditorium, do a couple of events, get some influencers, do some events, and you charge whatever it is. And I think I would probably even classify the market as two. One, the students who are getting away from home because somebody is paying that. And the two are actually saying that I need this because I am expecting an ROI. I need to be placed. So we have both sets of students there. So the reality is, I think, just like the engineering colleges mushroomed in the 70s and the 80s, where people were almost wanting to claim that they were educationists, it was giving them respectability in the industry. And they also made money hand over fist because of selling capitation or management seats. If we think it has gone out, I don't think so. It is still much prevalent in India across board, which is why some of the fancy schools that come up with crazy names in obscure places which claim to offer MBA students is actually much below average rather than Master of Business Administration. I think we have to redefine MBA.
Rajneesh, did you want to come in on that as well?
No, so again, interesting comment, Sourav. Very good observation that why are the private institutions not really, there in the top 5. I guess it's more about probably the tenure that the IIMs have had in the country. That's a clear benefit that they have had. They're fairly established right since, I guess, early 50s. So they are kind of, rooted in the country. I wish so many IIMs should have happened probably many years back. Things would have been probably very different. We got very limited to just about 5 of them for so many years. When we were growing up, we just knew about 3. There was A, B, C is what we used to talk about.
But Rajneesh,
That's
is
how
that
it
good?
used to-
Rajneesh, just to interrupt you, is that good for the quality of a IIM education? Do you have enough faculty, for example, or the necessary industry connect? Is that such a good idea, or is it just populism at work?
So look, like I said, IIM has had an advantage. So from a pure structure, attracting the best faculty, the infrastructure, very clear advantage they have had. And the kind of people who have led the IIMs right at the top, I mean, they have been names in the academia, honestly. So that is something that will require a huge amount of catch-up. The other thing which I was very happy to see is to also track the edtechs. That is where youngsters are coming in and disrupting the education business, And these edtech founders are all fairly young people. I mean, they see an opportunity that education can be treated very differently. So do you see these edtech companies as private players who are completely changing the game? Of course, they are changing the game. They're definitely building on it, right? Even the IIMs are kind of recalibrating themselves. How do you counter an UpGrad or a Coursera, So I think there is a learning happening on the academic side between the private and the IIMs of the world. But yes, like I said, it will take time to catch up. IIMs have had an advantage of just being there for so long. That's about it.
Just add a couple of points.
Go ahead, Abhishek, then Srinath to you.
Thank you. So I would like to say that education industry itself is a unique in the sense it has a little longer gestation period. So the return investment payback period is longer. The IIMs were started a little early, and they had a lot of government fundings. Till recent past, they had a much lower fees than the private B schools. Now after now the fees is almost in equilibrium. And you see that a lot of private B schools have also upskilled. If you see SPJIMR, it has a lot of global campus. If you talk about MDI, IMI, the IIMT Ghaziabad, and Narsi Monji, these top B schools, private sector B schools, have multiple campuses in the country. So I think the time is not far away when they will start catching up. Another reason is the fascinating craze with the Indian tag, whether it's Indian Institute of Management or Indian Institute of Technology or whatever.
Well, that's important, Srinath. In fact, as you come in, just one quick comment from my side. Is it also to do with the power of the alumni network and the fact that they have done very, very well, and that also lends extra weight to the network, because despite everything, an ex-IIM person versus ex of some private institute is looked at very differently in the country, Srinath.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, alumni network is the calling card or the boasting rights, right? I mean, end of the day, if you look at LinkedIn today, people who even go for one-day program at IIM flaunt their certificate as if they last 2 years, right? So I think...
Well, Harvard is also flaunted all over that place.
That's true. But again, to be fair, let's say the take of Professor Sriram, who kind of incubated and mentored Google founders, right? I mean, where are those Indian academicians who incubated, let's say, the startup community? Not one. Good quality academic research takes time, effort, and needs financial resources from the institutes. So it is unfair to say that IIMs and ISBs do that because they have the luxury of all of this. The private institutions which are for profit are constrained, and which is why in COVID, I shuddered to read some of the research publications which have been published. Terrible quality written by almost every single private college. They shouldn't even call it as published research pieces anymore. And coming from professors of management school, you can actually get ChatGPT to write better, one, the language and also the pedagogy of the entire content. And the other point that Indian B schools to truly call themselves as business schools, the professors to say that I understand my subject, can they offer consulting to the industry? Globally, B school professors offer consulting. Why is it that Indian businesses would still seek out Professor Ramcharan and not a big professor from India? I mean, there is a missing gap there. It's also that we have to accept that we have not built that capability. And that is, I think, a lacuna that these schools have to build. It won't come overnight. It's going to take a 15 to 20-year journey if an institute wants to be serious about it.
Absolutely. Viewers, everything and many of the most popular institutions, well-known institutions in India have the word Indian. They all started from the Sarkari effort in the public sector, and we can kind of discuss the list. But as the private sector evolves, as we move away from Mai Baap Sarkar to a more capitalist oriented private sector, and we have seen visible results of that on all fronts, all sectors across the country, it's very clear that the entire purpose of a business school education and at the master's level, obviously over and above your graduate skills, is very, very significant. But that significance has to keep step with time, with changes both on technology and the economy. And this Silver Jubilee edition brought out by Sourav and his entire team captures all the rankings. It gives you details and also a lot of flavor. So if you are someone who has even the remotest interest in business schools and business education, please do pick up your copy on the stands, and also check us out online as well as on all social media platforms. I'm going to thank my entire panel here, Dr. Rajib, Rajneesh Singh, Srinath Sridharan, Anand Adhikari and Sourav Majumdar, as well as Abhishek Agrawal for their time with us today. With that, it's a wrap on this show. We'll be back with more. See you again very soon. Bye-bye.